Hi there. Welcome to my kitchen, first of all, but also welcome to the first episode of Campcast, the official podcast of the Campfire Speaking Club. So today, for the first episode, I've got a very special guest. It's Vladimir Pavlovich from Advanced English for Exams. We'll talk all about his page and all about his great content in the first bit of the podcast, but we also talk about Cambridge exams. We talk about teaching, learning, all of the dirty secrets that Cambridge doesn't want you to know, etc. So Vladimir is, for those of you who don't know, a teacher of English. He's also the author of this page, Advanced English for Exams, which is a much wider, much larger, better presented page than my page could ever hope to be. Vladimir is a former student of mine, God help him, and is an all-round great guy. He's a mastermind of these Cambridge exams and is a dangerously insane individual. So apologies in advance for the sound quality, by the way, in this video. My sound quality is not like amazing. I don't have any like, great equipment at this stage. It's early days of the podcast. But wow, you would have thought I put my phone on silent to make this intro, huh? Well, that's how unprofessional I am. I'm not even going to edit that out. Maxime Bilkov, how dare you? You've ruined this intro. Where was I? So we talk about all of that crazy stuff. As I say, apologies for his sound quality. As I say, mine's not the best, but his was even worse. He was in one of his classrooms at work and he had no microphone, so it's pretty echoey. But as I say, I hope you enjoy the show and yeah, have fun. Okay, in 3, 2, 1, and okay, we're live. All right, so I'm joined here by Mr. Vova. Although I don't know, should I call you Vova? Is it too informal for a part? I should call you Vladimir Evgeniyevich.
If you want, you can call me Bob.
Okay, well, there we go. How many people do you get calling you Vladimir Pavlovich instead of Pavlovich?
Actually, it happened today because I got a delivery, book delivery, and they asked whether I was Vladimir Pavlovich. And when I spit at their faces, they were quite quite disappointed.
Well, I mean, it's your fault for having a silly Bulgarian surname. So
yeah, next time I see my dad, I will tell him what I think about him.
So, if you could just go ahead and just before we started taping, I was just hoping you could explain the lovely echoey sound quality that we've got for the show today. You're actually in your classroom.
I'm at work and I'm in my class. This is the place where I work, and I've been working here for many years, I think, right? And here you can see this nice space because I was teaching emotional vocabulary. This, how can we talk about character, just 15 minutes ago.
Well, there we go. And how can you? Ambitious, self-confident, generous, all excellent phrases.
Well, if you look here,
Bob, do me a favor, just go and move a little bit that way, and that'll line up with your true personality.
The thing is, the worst thing here is that my father is an artist. You can see that, right?
Ah.
Something does not really run in the family.
Well, I think mine and yours teaching styles kind of concur. in that regard. I'm also not the best artist, probably even worse than you. Maybe we could have a competition to see
Yeah.
who's the worst whiteboard drawer. Although these days I don't really use whiteboards, not real ones anyway. So obviously you're at your school now, in your Yalutrovsk Empire.
Mhm.
But the main way that I think most people are going to know about you is your community on Vkontakte. And if you just want to go ahead
Advanced
and tell
English for
people,
exams, yeah.
do you want to go ahead and tell people what it's called and where they can find it, etc.?
Well, it's on VK. It's Advanced English for Exams, where we help people with getting prepared for Cambridge exams starting from FCE, I believe.
And ending in CPE and beyond. Didn't you say
Yeah,
that Cambridge, the rumours are circulating that Cambridge is working on a C2 plus or C3 exam?
yeah. And I'm pretty sure that we'll do that they will do it quite soon, because if we look at the criteria for writing and the proficiency, and we look at band 5, we'll see that this is not C2 anymore. So, and bearing in mind this logic with all of the exams they have, like CE and FCE, if you have an A, so it is not really B2 anymore, it's C1. If it's an A in the CE, then it's C2, and then we have this imaginary A with the in the proficiency. So basically it has to equal something different.
Yeah, I think they kind of set themselves up for that one, getting an A at CPE. You know, that's a C at, hypothetically. I don't know, what are they going to call this exam, and what do you attribute this ever expanding suite of exams to? Is it because the exams are getting easier, people are getting better, or is it a bit of both?
Well, I think that the exams are getting easier because, well, it's very easy to notice if we compare the tests from 2008, both in C and proficiency, with what we have now. Lots of people say that writing has become more difficult in the proficiency, and I don't really think that it got more difficult. I think it got a bit different. It got more academic, and that's why people consider it to be more difficult, because back in the days it was a letter, and let's face it, it is not that difficult to write a letter. But as for the writing in the CE, again, it was a letter back in the days. Now it's an essay, but an easy essay. I think that a lot of people will consider what I am going to say completely unholy, but in FCE, the essay is more difficult because, yeah, I know, but holy water doesn't work on me. It's just in FC you need to think, in the C you don't really need to think, everything is given. So, and if we just look at the tasks from what we had back in the days, just we can compare, let's say, multiple choice clause, the first task, I mean, the short article, we have 4 words to choose from, right, where they test vocabulary. Now they have 8 questions. Back in the days, they had 18. And it's quite obvious that with 18 questions, it's easier to estimate with this candidate's level of vocabulary. Now it's just 8. And when it comes to C, most of them are collocations. And when it comes to collocations, let's face it, it's a common phrase, right? If you don't know it, well, then something should be done about it. But most of the time, if you read a lot, if you practice a lot, you can recognize them even without knowing this collocation, just because it sounds right.
Yeah. So, but when they've taken away, you know, for example, there used to be 18 questions, now there's only 8. Have they rebalanced that in another area of the test, or is it just?
No. It's about everything. So it was 18 questions for vocabulary. There were, I think, 15 questions for open clause, like the article with the 1 word missing and you need to guess.
Yeah.
Again, there were 15, now there are 8. Right? And they don't have anything like that in other parts of the exam. So they say that it's enough to see whether the student is strong enough or they are not as good as they think they are. But come on, 8 questions versus 15 questions. quite obvious that the results will be more adequate, but you have more questions. The exam got shorter because of that. I don't want to lie, but back in the days you had to sit longer. Now it's just 1 hour and 30 minutes, 1 hour and 30 minutes, 30 minutes, and speaking. So it's not that long.
Yeah. Yeah, we do get through the speaking candidates as quickly as we can, in accordance with the timeline, of course. So, but is, you know, our Cambridge exams, are they the be all and end all? Like, you know, is that what you should be focusing on all the time as a learner? I mean, what's you're someone who's obviously, you know, put a lot of investment, a lot of work into studying English. What, hypothetically, if you were to take IELTS or you were to take CPE, what would be the point from your point of view?
Again, quite an unholy thing to say. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who are helping students with, let's say, A2 or B1 certificates. I'm pretty sure that those exams are not that important because we have a lot of communicative courses out there. Well, you know, this New English File or, you know, How to Make Cutting Edge, and they are fantastic even without this exam preparation. But if we look at high levels and we, let's say, think about advanced. Yeah, we have English File, we have Cutting Edge, we have all of those books out there. But is it really advanced? Can you actually say that after covering New Cutting Edge, C1, you reach the C1 level? Well, that's, I think that I would be lying if I say so. So, but when we look at CEE, we, again, at the end of the day, we talk about grammar, because it's use of English, right? We talk about vocabulary, it's part of reading. We test their reading abilities, we test their listening abilities, we test their writing abilities, we test their speaking abilities. So we test pretty much everything. And when you have the system in your head, knowing what you need to do for C1, like tick, 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 done, 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 your preparation is becoming better and better and better. And again, when you get, or when you study and you try to reach the C1 level under this communicative approach with all of the books we have on the market, again, they're fantastic books. I'm pretty sure that everyone has their favorite book, which they think to be the best of the best, and probably they're right, who knows. But still, let's talk about motivation. When a student just joins the class because they want to speak, it's just one thing. But if they want to get a certificate because they need it for their job, they will study harder. They will not really learn 10 words from the book. They will learn more words, right? They will probably work with word skills, probably with this in use areas, because they will try to get as much as possible, because their certificate, this idea is looming the horizon, right? They need to get it somehow, and without real solid preparation for the exam, sometimes, well, I would say like 90%, not 100, but 90%, it is about just groping in the dark, right? I'm doing that, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm doing that, but it's without the system. When it comes to exams, they give you a system, they give you understanding of what I can do and what I should be able to do.
But don't you find, having said that, that, you know, the people that you get in your class who are the most motivated are people who don't need the certificate for work, they don't need it for a visa, not for university, not for anything, they're just obsessed, like people like you, like
well, so with the proficiency, I remember this thing, probably you told me that.
What?
I don't remember, but your phrase was like, CE, they are super duper advanced people. When it comes to CP, it's about freaks.
yeah, I was
probably mistaken, probably I'm paraphrasing it, but the idea was, I think, is in that field. And I will agree with that, because when it comes to proficiency, let's face it, this is an artificial level. This is the level which does not really exist in the real world.
Agreed.
That's why the candidates who have fantastic English, they are really good. They can struggle with listening. Why? Because people speak faster there. And we have to face this simple truth. People do not really speak faster there, they read faster there, because all of those people, they are actors, they're sitting in the recording studio, they're reading the script, and they know that they have to be faster than usual, right? So it is not really the level. Then another thing comes into perspective, and another thing which we need to consider. What is real C2? We always say, oh, like, it was really good, but you use basic phrases. But come on, let's watch all of those TV series.
They're basic for a reason. They're the phrases.
It's basic English, right? Of course, sometimes they will use something fancy because they need to do that. But under the exam conditions, when you have 15 minutes, and let's be honest, it is not 15 minutes, it's 7, because there are 2 candidates, right? It's 7 minutes, and you need to show them a variety of grammar structures, right? And if you want to have a 5, then it's a wide range of grammar patterns. It's less common vocabulary. Then, of course, this is not really the language which people use. And to support it, I want to mention one of the videos which I found online. It was about native speakers. They were stopped. They were just passers by on the street, and they were stopped by English teachers, and they were asked IELTS questions. Again, native speakers from Cambridge. They were stopped on the street. They were asked random questions from IELTS from part 1 and part 2. The highest band they got was 7.5.
That's not, it's respectable.
Yeah, which is good, which is C1, right? Which is still C1. So that's, no, I'm lying. There was one candidate who got a 9, but he was an English teacher.
And
he was teaching IELTS.
Did he know that they were asking him IELTS questions?
Yeah.
I see. Very good. Yeah, you're absolutely right. There is an element of it which is, you know, it's a performance. It's you know, you are showing all of the feathers in your peacock's tail. You're really putting on display everything you've got, bringing out the big guns. But you know, having said that, if you're going to have this freakish level CPE, what else would it be? It's got to be more than the normal language that people use in the street. So yeah. So
yeah.
No, go on.
And you asked about other exams. So we know that we have IELTS, and a lot of people ask me whether I'm going to do that or not.
And
I don't think so, because of
Okay.
several reasons. First, well, just a couple of minutes ago, I started criticizing Cambridge system for simplifying things, like we have fewer questions. But come on, but still, this is C2, and they give you a lot of tasks for this level to see whether you are there or not. When it comes to IELTS, it tests from B1 to C2. Can it be really adequate? I have my doubts, and I will explain why. So here I'm in my school, and I will be honest, I don't really have really strong students here. So the top group is CAE, right? With there are a couple of kids there who have taken CE already, and they passed, but still we haven't started proficiency because, well, they're kids. And I think that kids should not do those things. I think kids should be kids at the end of the day. But still, I teach like FCE level students or B1 level students here. And here in Russia, we have this academic competition in English, so-called Olympiads, right? And when it comes to regional parts, some of the tasks are taken from IELTS there. And I give these tasks to my students who are not really strong students. I mean, they are nice, they have B2, but when it comes to reading, they easily get like 8.5. Then I give them CE, and they cannot show exactly the same results.
So in that case, how do you explain that? I mean, it seems to me that IELTS is growing in popularity. Am I mistaken about that?
Because of the universities. And again, Cambridge has introduced Cambridge Scale, right? And they did it because they wanted to become popular.
Mm.
They want their exams to be valid, and more universities around the globe accept CE or FCE because, for example, if you want to study in Estonia or Lithuania or Czech Republic, France even, still they say like 180 points for each of the criteria. And it means that in the future it will be better. I understand why they did it. Back in the days, it was band A. It doesn't tell us anything. How can I compare, let's say, 180 in FCE and 190 in FCE? Where 190 in FCE is basically passing with flying colors. It means that I not only have a past, but I have also demonstrated really strong C1 level. Whereas 180 is still an A, it's still CE, but it's just a weaker C. It's still weaker C1 than 190.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and with this Cambridge scale, it's better to compare students.
Mm-hmm. Well, there we go. So, I'm trying to remember, when was the last time that you were actually in a class of mine, or at least in a class at the old school? Because obviously, you know, me and you had some lessons over the summer, which was great, and was an interesting introduction to the nature of your mind, albeit a scary one. But when was the last time you actually in a face-to-face class of mine?
I think like face-to-face class, not online. It was maybe 2 years ago.
2018, I think that's right.
Yeah, it was TET in Timan.
Yeah.
Either your class or maybe Andrew's Walker.
Perhaps I can't remember who else you had, but I mean since the time I've known you for quite a few years, and in that time I have heard you, and I'm not going to name any names, of course, and please don't you either, but I have heard you make some fairly I wouldn't say rude, but honest, frank remarks about teachers and about people's teaching styles. And I've seen you walk into a class, had a lesson, and not come back because you're simply not satisfied. And I'm deeply honoured that I didn't receive the same level of criticism. So I suppose what I'm asking is, what is it that you look for in a teacher? Because obviously you're a teacher yourself, you know how the game is played. What do you look for when you want to find someone else to study with or study under?
Two things. Well, of course, it's knowledge. Of course, it's knowledge, and again, unholy things. So I know about the hashtag, right? George will not approve. I do believe that knowledge always comes first. Because when it comes to the lesson, it means that the student should leave a class with thinking, oh, I learned something. It can be a bit like a teeny tiny thing. It can be pronunciation pattern. Back in the days, I said like dinosaur, and now I'm saying dinosaur. At least something, right? It's good. I learned something. When you leave a class and you think that, okay, I wasted 1 hour and 30 minutes of my life, I could have done something different. I could have read a book, and I didn't do that for some weird reason, then of course it is not a nice class. And the second thing, that would be methodology, of course. And by methodology, I think it is not really about reading all of those books on methodology. Still, it's important. But I think that methodology is something, yes, it's a given. It should come from within. You either can explain things, or you are a dull person, right? And it's not really interesting to study with you.
But time out for just a sec. Is the ability to explain a complex grammatical or a complex vocabulary point, a complex collocation, is that the same as methodology? Because I would say there's some daylight between those two areas, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, if we talk about the science and now I'm talking about like techniques. Like I know that I need to do that, and that. I have a clear understanding of the lesson. So it is not like, okay, what should I do now? So a teacher has to have this clear understanding of pretty much everything which is going on under the class conditions, under the home conditions when they're doing their homework. And when the teacher doesn't really understand the process and they just come to the class, they do something with the teacher's book, like, and they follow these guides all over and over again, even though the lessons can be nice, still they're not going to be as engaging as they should be, and they're not going to be as fruitful as they should be. And again, we are talking a bit about high levels, right? We're not talking about kids. If I were a child, probably I would be quite satisfied with an upper intermediate level student, really, probably. And I know quite a few teachers out there who are fantastic. They know things. And when I observe their lessons and I see what they do, well, I'm always taken aback, really, because it's something different, something which I will never come up with. And it's beautiful, and I see that it's actually working. Right? When it comes to high-level students, there are quite a few things which I don't understand. One of the things is when you doubt your student, like you try to teach them the things they already know.
Yeah.
That's quite a clumsy attempt. Like, okay, let's learn phrasal verbs, make phrasal verbs, and then explain us those phrasal verbs. Why? Well, if I explain those, if I have written those phrasal verbs and I'm explaining those phrasal verbs, it means that I know them, right? Or let's do the listening. Oh, we've done the listening, everything is all right. Let's look through the scripts. Why? So, are we going to work with the vocabulary? Well, there are other ways to work with the vocabulary than listening, right? So, because why should we really mix listening and reading? Because reading the script, it's still reading. This is
you know why though. You know why teachers do that. That's the dirty.
It's time consuming. I think that it's just time consuming, and reading the script will give them an extra 10 minutes.
Oh, you think? Yeah, that's it, 100%. There's a lot of teachers out there who think that wasting time is synonymous with good teaching. I don't know what you do. I mean, do you think that what you were saying, I was very interested in what you were saying about being able to understand what's going on from the learner's perspective, what's going on at home, how they're approaching the material. Do you think that that is an advantage that people who are not native speakers have? I mean, I personally, when I teach, I have some insight in this regard, because obviously I've studied languages before, and I studied Russian obviously at university, but I would say that someone who has studied English as not as a native language has the ultimate insight in this regard. What do you think?
No, I will definitely say no to it. Why? Because unfortunately, people are not, I don't know, cubes, which are the same, right? All people are different. A lot of things are different. We perceive information differently. We do something differently. Like this scheme, which we have on the board, maybe it is working for me. Probably it will not be as effective for other students, right? So it is not really about the advantage, like, oh, I learned the language myself, look at me, I've mastered it. Well, I mastered it because I had good teachers who helped me, and they guided me when I needed their help. And these are the teachers who explained me, so they explained quite a few things to me when I was struggling. So, like, what should I do? Should I read the book and translate every word, or at this level it was not really important? So, and if we consider this one from this perspective, I think that anyone can be a good teacher if they understand what they do and they can teach, right? If they can teach and they understand what they do and they have something to say, they can become good teachers.
Well, okay, it's my turn to say something unholy now. How much difference do you really think a good teacher makes? Because a lot of, for sure, the teacher's important, definitely. And there are good teachers and there are bad teachers, 100%. But if you have someone who is a naturally good language learner, because let's be honest, some people are better than others. We were not all born the same, as you yourself say, certainly not in terms of intellectual gifts. And there are some people who, you know, it doesn't matter what teacher they have, they're going to soar and they're going to excel and they're going to be amazing. And yeah, okay, teachers do make a difference, but how much of a difference do you think we're deluding ourselves sometimes when we think we make the students?
It depends on the level. I think it very much depends on the level. I think that when it comes to the beginners and this survival level, like A1, A2, I think that without a teacher, it will be more difficult.
Yeah.
It just because with this guidance, it's much easier, right? When it comes to high levels, well, you can explain them a lot of things. Unless they practice, they will not really work. Yeah, nothing will work out in the future. So what will work at rate is the situation when they learn something with you, then they go home and they practice. Just today, actually, in the morning, I read this article about, well, this is from the book How to Teach Vocabulary by Thornbury, and there was a nice phrase about the vocabulary. There was a study, probably, I mean, I hope there was a study because it's Thornbury, and I hope that everything he's saying was supported with at least something. So he said that if you live in a foreign country for a year when you're exposed to the language, right, and you have to speak this language every day, the number of the vocabulary items you will acquire will equal 18 years of studying somewhere else. 18 years. Isn't it amazing, shocking, and terrible at the same time? If you live here in Russia and like me in a small town, which you cannot find on the map, so does it mean that I have to spend 18 years to learn as much as students who will spend a year in the natural surroundings? Well, when they study English at the uni there, or they study something else in English, well, this is terrible, yeah, and scary at the same time.
When you come, you keep threatening to come visit. When are you coming to visit me?
Well, after reading this article,
right now,
I think that I should start packing things, right? Because a year.
You haven't seen my new house yet, have you? We haven't spoken since I left Manchester. You can already tell you would love my house. Look at these lovely stone walls. This is 18th century material right here. You would love it.
It's difficult not to hate you right now.
Well, you do have a remarkable capacity for hate, Vladimir. That's one thing that I love about you.
Right.
So first of all, you need to go and get a driving license or buy a driving license, whatever you do, and then you can drive around. It's tough to get around in the UK, in the countryside. There is a bus here in this village. I've never seen it. I don't know how much it costs, but I know that there is a bus somewhere. Yeah, you've got to get a car. You can't be getting that public transport in the British countryside. Okay. I was going to ask you as well about when people either start learning English for the first time, or when people are getting ready for Cambridge exams, or whatever study goals someone might have. What are things that people often do in your experience that are just a complete waste of time? Just by way of an example, when I've been teaching like elementary level students before, I've had people come into class and said, "Oh, I've been reading Harry Potter cover to cover, and every time I see a word that I don't know, I write it down." What are you doing? You're out of your mind. You're going to have 20 synonyms for cauldron and nothing else. There are graded readers specifically designed for exactly this purpose. And you're just, you're throwing away this chance to really practice your reading. So what are some other examples like that you've had in your time?
I think that I'll start with the beginners, right? With the beginners, I think that they have, it is not really about their actions. What is completely wrong is, are the expectations, right? The expectations they have. They think that they will speak fluent English in 3 months, and which is impossible. Let's face it, it is impossible unless they work, I don't know, 24/7 and there are hundreds of words, and not just words, but chunks. And they practice, and probably they will reach very nice intermediates, probably, which is still doubt, but probably.
Ambitious.
Yeah, that's super ambitious. But when it comes to high levels, and especially with exam preparation, it is the approach that is wrong. What I mean is that they start doing tests. They think that the exam is about the test. They forget that exam is about English. And they need to study English first. And only after that, they can practice. Of course, at the end of the day, you can do, I don't know, 200 tests. And of course, you learn a lot of things. And of course, with every test, you'll become better. And probably you'll pass. And probably you'll pass with flying colors. I know quite a few students with a certificate. So they passed CEE with an A. But do they really sound C2? No. They just know how to do the tests, right? They forgot the simple truth that what they had to be learning, in those years, was language, right? That's that. So doing tests without supporting those tests with the language and trying to become better, to learn better chunks, better words, better collocations, working on their vocabulary in terms of expressing their thoughts differently. So, and I exaggerated this word, or this thought word, for a reason, because again, sometimes people forget that the message comes first. And they start sounding ridiculous because they will put those fancy words in every sentence. Normally, it happens with their writing, and it is not clear. So they forget that clarity is the key. What I always tell my students, and again, probably it's completely unholy, and probably lots of people will hate me for that. Just 2 things. When it comes to speaking, you need to remember the simple truth. You're not really speaking to yourself. You are speaking to your interlocutor or your partner under the exam conditions, or you just speak to any human being out there, right? So it means that they need to understand you. You need to get your message across first. That's the main priority. This is the main idea. That's why we have in the criteria this thing like errors of, occasional errors do not impede communication. Again, message comes first. It is important what you wanted to say. Sometimes you just show them vocabulary, you show them grammar, and it sounds ridiculous because nowadays the problem of deforestation has become of paramount importance. Come on, deforestation is a pressing issue. That's what you wanted to say. Say it.
Yeah.
Right?
That and it works both ways as well. When talking about either discourse management or interactive communication, when you just don't listen to the question, you don't listen to your interlocutor, and it's it drives me mad. Like when I was examining, and especially on when you're doing part 2 CAE, people just describe the picture. Don't even try and answer the question. The question's written there on the page, and they just describe, well, in this picture, we can see blah. Okay, sorry, 3.0 for IC. I can't give you any more. It's in the framework. And it drives me crazy because this is someone who has really high level of English, but they just they're just not listening to the question, not listening to the instructions.
So that was the speaking, right? And when it comes to writing, that's the thing which I learned from masterclass. This is this website, right? Masterclass.com, and where I was taking this creative writing course a couple of, probably not a couple, just months ago. I don't really remember when. And the phrase was just fantastic. So the author said, like, a lot of people think about a fancy word. A lot of people think about a good turn of phrase or anything. What they need to think of is to hold my attention. Because again, if you write something, you write it not for yourself unless it's a diary. You write it for somebody. Don't forget that this thing will be read by a different person. So readability is important. And this is the pain which we always discuss with my colleagues in our school, with advanced English for exams, with Sergey or Anton sometimes, when we look at the paragraph and the student shows fantastic English, but there is nothing. It's simply nothing in this paragraph. Did they answer the question? No. Did they say anything? No. Did they have any ideas? No. So what should I give you points for? Okay, language.
Yeah, lovely idioms. Yeah.
Language. You'll get 5 out of 20. Fantastic.
That's definitely something that I think high-level speakers or writers indeed come up against very often, is when all of these, you know, really great collocations and phrases and idioms and all of these bits and bobs and different strands of language that they've acquired over the years, when that comes first and the sense comes second. You're nodding. Are you thinking of some of the assignments that we worked on together?
Yeah, well, again, I'm a human being, right? And
relatively speaking.
My mommy had me tested. So, so I know that I'm not an alien, and nor am I a robot. But still, writing is a skill, and you need to practice it every day. So we can refer to our first writing, which I wrote. I don't remember what it was about, though.
The one I gave you.
Yeah, so that was the first essay which I wrote in the beginning of summer. That was, it doesn't really matter. So there was this paragraph with, I think, 5 idioms.
And I corrected, I said, look, Vova, this is too much, even for you.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that when I wrote it, it was like, okay, I liked it. And then I think that after a week or so, I read it through one more time, and it was like, who wrote it? Like, who had written this piece of? Are we allowed to use that word?
This is an 18+ podcast. You can say whatever you want. Let it rip.
Yeah. So the thing is that again, this is a skill, and with some decent practice, you start polishing these things. You start understanding that, okay, probably you don't really need that many words. Probably you start sounding wordy. Probably those words are redundant. So, and even though I passed CPE with a very decent score, still, simply because I hadn't been practiced for more than a year, a lot of things started, let's say, deteriorating. And now, what I write now, I read it through, I understand that it's getting better. So it doesn't really matter how good you are. It doesn't really matter whether you passed proficiency or you haven't. It doesn't really matter whether you have 9 in IELTS. You still need to practice. And Irina Lutsenko, that's a very well-known lady in the EFL community, that's why she practices a lot. Though her writing in IELTS, I think she got 8.5, which is really good. But still, she practices.
What you got to do. Yeah, I think it's about keeping those plates spinning. I mean, I haven't practiced, for example, my Spanish since I left university, and I can hardly speak a word these days. I used to be obviously university level, and now, I'm barely intermediate. But obviously, I've kept my Russian going ever since I left Russia, and that's ticking over nicely, thank God. Well, there we go. All right. Well, Vova, this has been a pleasure, and thank you so much for taking time out of your no doubt busy Friday evening. I don't know why for those watching, by the way, we're taping this on a Friday at 8 o'clock GMT. I have no idea why. I'm sorry, Vov. We should probably do it a different day next time. But yeah, thanks for your insights and your knowledge, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, it was a
My great pleasure. My great pleasure. I will see you next time, good sir.